The first stitch Dravara cut screamed in a voice only she could hear. It was not a human scream. It was the high, silver note of a memory being torn out of silk, the sound her mother had taught her to fear before the crown guard burned every Varkan loom in the lower city. The thread snapped beneath Dravara's thumbnail. Moonlight spilled through the slit in the velvet curtain, and the hidden seam exhaled a breath that had been trapped for 17 years. Rain on black cedar, crushed frostmint, smoke from a hearth no map remembered, her scent. Dravara froze behind the curtain while the mating ball continued on the other side. 100 jeweled nobles circled beneath chandeliers shaped like silver antlers. Musicians bowed glass-stringed vials. 7 pack banners hung from the vaulted ceiling, and every unmated wolf in the palace had spent the evening pretending not to measure every other breath in the room. She had covered her skin with bitter root oil, wrapped her hair in scentless linen beneath its jeweled pins, and entered the royal ballroom as one of the seamstresses assigned to mend the ancient draperies. No wolf had looked at her twice. That had been the plan. Cut the black thread from the moon curtain, find whatever truth her mother had died hiding inside it, and leave before midnight. Then the music stopped. Not gradually. One bow scraped across one string, and every other instrument died around it. Beyond the curtain, a man inhaled. Dravara felt that breath as surely as if it had touched the back of her neck. "Open the doors," said the Wolf King. His voice was low, but the ballroom carried it into every corner. The guards obeyed at once. Bronze bolts struck stone. Winter air swept through the hall, stirring perfume, candle smoke, wolf musk, and the expensive flower essences worn by daughters who had crossed half the kingdom to be noticed tonight. "No one leaves," the king said. Whispers rose and vanished. Dravara pressed herself against the wall behind the velvet. In her right hand lay the severed thread, cold and restless as a living vein. In her left, the small bone needle that had belonged to Corvara, her mother. If she put the thread back now, the broken stitch would still betray her to anyone trained in moonweaving. If she ran, the nearest servant's passage lay 30 paces away, beyond 3 curtains and a pair of royal sentries. A new sound entered the silence. Slow boots on marble. The king was following her scent. Dravara had seen Khaion only on coins and execution notices. Those images made him look older than his 32 years, all crown and severity. Through a narrow fold in the curtain, she saw the living man cross the ballroom. He was taller than rumor, dressed in black, worked with old gold, a mantle of dark wolf fur framing shoulders held too rigidly for comfort. His silver-white hair fell loose beneath a narrow crown. The candlelight caught in his eyes and turned them amber. Beside him walked no bride, but a great white wolf, scarred across the muzzle and silent among the nobles. Khaion's animal shadow, people called it, a creature that appeared when the king's own wolf drew too close to the surface. Lord Orion, the king's chief counselor, moved after him. "Your Majesty, the choosing breath has begun. The heirs are waiting." "Then they can wait one breath longer." Khaion passed Lady Auronora, the moon-gold heiress everyone expected him to choose. She wore no disappointment on her face, only a sudden, sharp attention. Around her, Other high-born wolves lowered their eyes. Khaion did not look at any of them. He turned toward the moon curtain, toward Dravara. The white wolf bared its teeth, not in threat but recognition. Dravara stepped backward. Her heel struck the wooden housing of the curtain. The tiny knock might have vanished beneath music. In the silence, it sounded like a confession. Khaion stopped on the other side of the velvet. "Who is there?" The cut thread tightened around Dravara's fingers. A memory flashed through it. Corvara kneeling beside a loom, blood on her sleeve, saying, "If the palace ever remembers us, do not let the crown decide what that memory means." Dravara closed her fist and ran. Khaion tore the first curtain aside as Dravara fled through the next. She escaped a guard with Corvara's bone needle and heard the king command that no one bite or bleed her. In the servants' passages, she took the route learned during 6 weeks of unnoticed work, only to find the white wolf waiting in a disused gallery. It could not have crossed the palace ahead of her, yet stood between her and the far stair. Khaion entered alone behind her. He had removed his crown. Without it, he looked less like the monster painted on rebel walls and more like a man who had not slept through a full night in years. One gloved hand rested against the doorframe. The other hung open at his side. Khaion explained that the animal was a reflection of his wolf, invisible to most. He felt the royal curtain wake and promised he would not claim her merely because her scent answered his. Dravara called the ball what it was, a place where fate turned women into treaties. Pain interrupted his reply. Black veins climbed his throat, and his wolf shuddered. Dravara recognized night glass beneath the sacred moonlily incense. "How long have they been poisoning you?" she asked. Khaion advanced before catching himself. When Dravara ordered him back, he obeyed. He admitted that Orion supervised the rite and that 6 years of suspicion had produced no proof. The thread in her hand might be the first. Then he named what she was. Varkan. Her outlawed guild had once woven the fabrics through which the 7 packs shared vows. 17 years earlier, the crown accused them of forging a prince's mate bond and burned their quarter. Corvara's bitter root had hidden 10-year-old Dravara from the hunting wolves. "There are no Varkans?" she said. "That is the lie I inherited," Khaion replied. "Perhaps you inherited one too." The gallery door opened. Lord Irion stood on the threshold with 6 guards and a smile too calm for the chase. "Your Majesty," he said, "step away from the assassin." Dravara saw the accusations settle into the guards before anyone examined her needle or her empty hands. She also saw the black veins climb another inch up Khaion's neck as the counselor's robes released a faint breath of moon lily and metal. Khaion smelled it too. His gaze shifted to Irion. Then he did the one thing no one in the gallery expected. He turned his back on Dravara, placing his body between her and the guards. "The woman is under my protection," he said. Irion's smile did not change. "On what grounds?" Khaion looked over his shoulder at Dravara. The amber in his eyes burned brighter, but his voice remained entirely human. "Because the palace remembered her before I did." Khaion placed Dravara in the Eastern Observatory rather than the cells. There she found 5 scent knots in the thread: home, warning, crown, hunger, consent. touching the last cost her the taste of her mother's winter tea. Moon weaving preserved truth by taking a memory of equal emotional weight. Opening Corvara's full message alone might make Dravara forget the very people she hoped to vindicate. Near dawn, Khaion brought food. He had protected her by telling Irion that harming her might drive his wolf mad. Dravara made him state plainly that a scent match did not make her his possession, queen, or trusted ally. He agreed to every limit. Khaion had been 11 during the purge. His elder brother Helic died after supposedly being enslaved by a Varkan bond, and his grieving father signed the executions. 6 years ago, Khaion found Irion's private mark on the death record. Dravara answered that Corvara's confession had been written with broken fingers. There was no apology large enough for Khaion to offer. Instead, he proposed finding a way to open the thread without stripping Dravara's memories. Before leaving, he placed the observatory key on the table. Flight would expose her to Irion's hunters, but he refused to make danger an excuse for locking the door. Dravara tested the key and found the corridor empty. Then she returned, ate the cold stew, and chose the alliance. By midday, rumors called Dravara everything from a hidden princess to a moon spirit. In truth, she spent the morning following Corvara's thread through locked corridors until it pointed at the wall behind Khaion's coronation tapestry. The king met her there with Raelel, his physician, who confirmed that years of night glass had kept his wolf near the surface and made every scent response dangerously intense. The doses worsen before each mating ball, Khaion said. So the court watches you become unstable, Dravara replied, and Irion offers a politically useful mate as the cure. Her bone needle sank into the wall. Silver lines traced a concealed door, and cold air rose from a stair below. When Khaion moved to summon guards, Dravara caught his wrist. His pulse answered beneath her fingers. Pine and winter iron filled the corridor as a silver line flashed under her skin. "No guards," she said, releasing him. "If the crown was not meant to find this, uniforms will not help." Khaion told Raelel to wait above and give any search party a false trail. The physician protested that he was descending with a suspected assassin. "She had 3 chances to kill me last night," Khaion said. 4, Dravara corrected. "You missed the pin in my hair." His brief, surprised laugh followed them down the stair. The stair curved beneath the ballroom. Silver mold patterned the walls in shapes that resembled running wolves. At the bottom lay a circular room filled with rotted looms. Someone had hacked the frames apart, but the floor remained webbed with thousands of threads too fine for ordinary sight. They crossed from wall to wall, converged beneath the ballroom, and descended through a grate toward a blue-white glow far below. "The moon well," Khaion said. "It lies under the throne hall. The 7 packs renew their oath over it each winter. These threads connect it to the mating ball. The old histories say the ball was created so the sovereign could find the strongest scent match. Old histories written after my people were killed." Dravara knelt beside a broken loom. "Look at the foot pedals. 2 sets. The work required 2 weavers making equal tension. You cannot bind a true vow if one person controls the pattern." Khaion crouched opposite her. Then the royal bond was never a claiming. It was an agreement. Scent showed possibility, not ownership. She found a brass shuttle beneath the collapsed frame. 2 wolves had been engraved on it, facing away from each other until the shuttle turned. Then they appeared face to face. Inside was a strip of pale fabric covered in Corvara's hand. Dravara recognized every deliberate slant. Her mother had been unable to straighten her broken fingers when she wrote the official confession. Here, the letters were clean. To the child who survives me, the crown did not order Helec's death. The hunger beneath it did. The remaining words had been washed blank. Dravara stared until the room blurred. Helec was my brother, Khaion said softly. I know. Your mother wrote to you. She wrote to whoever survived. The thread around Dravara's needle reached toward the fabric. When the 2 touched, the room filled with the scent of wood smoke. A scene shimmered above the loom. Corvara standing in this chamber beside a younger Lord Irion. He held a crystal vial. Behind them, 17-year-old Helec lay unconscious on a table, dark veins crossing his face. The vision stuttered and collapsed before either witness spoke. At the same instant, something vanished from Dravara. She searched for it and found an empty place where the sound of Sornik's childhood whistle should have been. She remembered her brother whittling reeds beside the river. She remembered laughing. She could no longer hear the tune. What did it take? Khaion asked. Nothing. Your face says otherwise. A song. She wrapped the fabric quickly. A small one. He looked at the hundreds of dormant threads beneath their feet. And the rest? Could take everything. Khaion asked whether the cost could be shared. Dravara explained that 2 willing weavers could carry a memory together, but any concealed intention would burn them both. He offered his last happy hunt with Helec. She offered the night Corvara taught her to hide her name. They placed their hands over each other's pulses and woke the loom. Dravara entered snow, pines, and Helec deliberately sparing a stag. Khaion felt bitter root on a terrified child's hair. Neither memory vanished. Each gained a second keeper. The cloth revealed that Helec had discovered night glass in the royal incense and asked the Varkin to investigate a parasitic knot channeling pack obedience into the sovereign. Irion poisoned him, planted a forged mating cord, and threatened to flood the capital with Helec's dying terror if Corvara exposed him. After the prince died, the old king signed the purge in grief. Khaion struck the wall, devastated by the father he had loved. Dravara did not touch or soothe him falsely. When he spoke of killing Irion, she told him vengeance would punish one man while leaving the system intact. What would a Varkin do? He asked. Dravara looked at the silver web descending toward the moonwell. Finish what her mother began.
You must finish what your mother began.
Back in the observatory, Raylel explained the deadline. Through the moonwell, each sovereign absorbed part of the 7 packs' aggression, preventing winter blood feuds. A royal mate traditionally helped redistribute that burden. Khaion had carried it alone, and Irion claimed failure to bond before the red moon would unleash feral sickness. Lady Orinora arrived with a clasp Irion had ordered her to wear. Dravara found night glass and powdered royal blood inside, enough to counterfeit a scent match. Orinora wanted political power, but refused to gain it through a drugged husband. She proposed pretending the match remained possible, while Dravara and Khaion searched for evidence. The plan hurt Dravara more than she expected, yet she agreed. That night, Khaion sent her a piece of shared memory with a message. An announced choice is not the same as a chosen one. At dawn, they prepared to enter the guarded hall of lineages. Dravara coated both wrists in bitterroot, warning that it would erase their sense for 20 minutes and might do so forever if their connection was false. The white wolf faded, with no magic pulling them together. Khaion was simply a man she could distrust, and Dravara, a woman free to leave. He offered his hand. She chose to take it. In the Hall of Lineages, Bitterroot carried them unseen to the chained royal register. Its lectern had 2 palm hollows. They accepted that opening it would restore their sense and pressed down together. Dravara's needle exposed the forgery over Helek's death. The earlier entry said he had renounced succession after refusing the keeper's bond. Korvara's thread then drew a hidden fabric from the spine. The first law of the Moonwell. No sovereign should carry what the pacts refused to govern, and no mate should bear what love had not freely chosen. A later keeper had redirected the 7 branches into the crown. The change gave kings command while slowly destroying them. A nightglass-saturated false mate could become the second body through which the keeper ruled. The central clock struck once. The guards turned. Khaion closed the register as a familiar whistle sounded above. Its tune was gone from Dravara's memory, but her heart recognized it. Ash-masked intruders descended, and their scarred leader uncovered the eyes of her brother. Sornik. Little Ember? Their embrace ended when he saw Khaion. Sornik drew a hooked knife and accused the king of sitting on the throne that had murdered their people. Dravara refused to be treated as a lamb led by a wolf. When Sornik saw Korvara's thread, he revealed that Maldron and other survivors lived and intended to finish the crown itself. Boots thundered above. Too many for the 2 centuries. Irion appeared above them with masked guards, revealing that Korvara had once taught him scentcraft. Sornik filled the hall with bitterroot smoke. Khaion cut the register free and forced it into Sornik's arms, trusting their shared enemy more than the counselor. As guards descended, Khaion fought without killing, while Dravara pulled hidden threads that rotated the cabinets and opened a route to the drainage door. A guard knocked her from the bridge. Khaion abandoned his sword to catch her wrist, then swung her into Sornik's reach. "Let me go," Dravara said. "They will take you." "That is the idea." Sornik dragged her through the door. Behind them, Khaion stood unarmed between Arion's guards and called, "Complete the thread." Sornik pulled Dravara through a channel barely high enough to crawl. Behind them, metal struck stone, then silence. She fought her brother until he released her. "We have to go back." Back to die with a king? He surrendered so we could escape. He surrendered because Irion will not execute a crowned wolf. Do not confuse privilege with sacrifice. He gave you the register. He gave me evidence of crimes his throne committed, and stayed behind without a weapon. Sornik's scar tightened. "What has he done to you?" Dravara slapped him. The sound cracked through the tunnel. Both of them froze. You do not get to return from the dead and speak to me as if I remained 10, she said. You do not get to decide that every choice I make is evidence of corruption. Sornik touched his reddening cheek. Beneath his anger, she saw the boy who had once stolen apples to make her eat during the siege. I searched for you. For how long? 9 years. And the other 8? I built something strong enough that no crown could burn us again. What did you build? He did not answer until the tunnel opened into a cistern beneath the old city. Ash-cloaked figures waited among pillars sunk in black water. At their center stood Maldron, once Corvara's loom partner. Age had bowed their shoulders, but their shaved head still bore the blue spiral tattoos of a master memory weaver. Maldron embraced Dravara and wept without apology. Then they placed the severed register on a dry plinth and showed her the plan that had consumed the survivor's years. On the red moon, when all 7 pack oaths opened at once, the ash-bound would cut the silver roots connecting the moonwell to the throne. Royal command would end forever. So would the system that moderated the pack's shared aggression. Sornik believed the clans would survive the resulting feral tide because freedom was worth a season of blood. A season? Dravara asked. How many children live in the winter dens? How many border villages depend on the oath against raids? How many Varkan children lived in our quarter? Sornik demanded. Their deaths do not become justice when we change the names of the dead. Maldron unrolled an older diagram. There was another design once. 7-pack representatives shared the burden through local wells, and the sovereign served only as the joining voice. But the pattern is incomplete. Corvara hid the missing knot. All eyes went to the thread in Dravara's hand. Open it, Sornik said. It will take memories. Take mine. You cannot order a shared weave. I am offering. Dravara studied him. What memory? Sornik hesitated too long. You plan to conceal it, she said. The knot would burn us. There are things you do not need to see. Then you are not offering trust. You are offering fuel. She thought of Khaion in the Hall of Lineages, giving up his sword to save people who despised him. Whatever scent connected them had disappeared under bitterroot, and he had still chosen her hand. Sornik shared her blood and childhood, but he wanted the girl he remembered, not the woman standing before him. I will not open Mother's final knot until I know what Khaion knows, Dravara said. Sornik's face hardened. The king is Orion's prisoner. Then we free him. We? Dravara lifted the royal register. You wanted proof. I want a living witness with authority to act on it. For one night, those goals are the same. The ashbound argued until the cistern lamps burned low. Maldron finally supported Dravara, not because they trusted Khaion, but because the restored pattern required the sovereign's voluntary renunciation of absolute command. A dead king could not choose it. Sornik yielded only after Dravara threatened to take Corvara's thread and leave alone. By then, the palace bells had changed rhythm. 3 slow strikes, repeated. Royal illness. Orinora found the ashbound before they reached the river gate. She came alone on a gray mare, cloak torn, gold dress hidden beneath it. Orion has declared Khaion unfit, she said. He claims the Varkan assassin triggered the king's feral blood. The council will appoint Irian protector at moonrise tomorrow, unless Khaion completes a bond first. Where is Khaion? Dravara asked.
The lunar crypt.
The lunar crypt, silver restraints, night glass incense every hour. Sornik gave a humorless laugh. And you escaped because? Because I refused to perform grief for a man who is not dead. Orinora drew her jeweled clasp from a pocket. Also because I placed this in Orion's brazier and let him breathe his own medicine. He will sleep until dawn. Dravara looked at her with new respect. Can you get us into the crypt? I can get one person in. The tunnels narrow beneath the chapel, and the final door recognizes royal blood. You have royal blood in the clasp, Maldron said. Not enough to fool the door twice. Sornik reached for the map. I will go. Khaion will smell you before you reach the restraints, Orinora replied. In his state, he will attack. He will smell Dravara too, Sornik said. Everyone went quiet. Dravara understood the choice they were afraid to name. A poisoned wolf might be calmed by the scent his instincts had recognized, or driven into greater hunger by it. The mating myths celebrated women who entered cages and trusted fate. The songs rarely mentioned how many were bitten. No, Sornik said. We find another way. Khaion found another way when I was hanging from a bridge, Dravara replied. Now I find his. Maldron gave her a coil of uncolored thread. This has never held a vow. If he consents, bind one end to his wrist and one to yours. It will carry intention more clearly than scent. And if he cannot consent, then do not bind it. The tunnel beneath the lunar chapel was lined with the bones of former kings. Dravara crawled past carved names, while Orinora waited at the entrance, holding the blood clasp against the mechanism. The final door opened onto a crypt washed in red moonlight from a shaft above. Khaion knelt at its center. Silver chains ran from his wrists and throat to iron rings in the floor. His tunic had been stripped away, revealing black veins spread across his chest. The white wolf reflection paced around him, no longer silent. Its growl vibrated through stone. Dravara entered without hiding her scent. Khaion's head snapped up. His eyes were entirely amber. Claws had broken through his fingertips, and blood marked the floor beneath his hands. Leave, he said. The word came through teeth no longer shaped for human speech. Can you understand me? Enough to know what happens if the chain breaks. She stopped outside its reach. I brought thread. It can carry intention between us, but I will not tie it unless you ask. His wolf lunged. The spectral body struck the limit of the silver chain and recoiled, though no metal bound it. Khaion doubled over with the impact. Irion said you were with the rebels, he forced out. My brother leads them. That was not a denial. I am with no one who mistakes vengeance for repair. Khaion raised his face. And me? Dravara's throat tightened. I am here, aren't I? That is not an answer. Even poisoned and chained, he refused to accept implication where choice was required. Dravara knelt beyond the reach of his claws. I choose to help you. I choose to trust the man who gave up his sword in the archive. I do not choose your crown, your law, or a bond made by scent alone. If you want the thread under those terms, ask me. Khaion fought for a full breath against the poison. Dravara, will you bind your intention to mine until I can govern my own body? Yes. Then I ask it. She tied one end around her wrist, left the knot loose enough to break, and tossed the coil. Khaion caught it between his chained hands. With clumsy claws, he looped it once around his wrist. The thread turned silver. His hunger struck her first. It was not desire, though desire burned inside it. It was the accumulated fury of 7 packs. Every border grievance, every challenge swallowed, every winter den gone hungry. Beneath that storm, Khaion's own intention remained a narrow, unwavering line. Do not hurt her. Dravara sent her answer through the thread. Do not disappear inside what they made you carry. The white wolf turned toward her. Its jaws could have closed around her throat. Instead, it lay down. Khaion shuddered back into human form. The black veins remained, but his eyes cleared around the edges. You came back, he said. You sound surprised. I hoped. That is more dangerous. She moved close enough to reach the nearest shackle. Corvara's needle opened the silver lock by unraveling the command woven into it. Khaion did not touch her until the final chain fell. Then his legs failed. Dravara caught him. His forehead rested against her shoulder, breath burning through her dress. The thread carried no royal demand, no animal compulsion, only the exhausted relief of a man allowing someone else to hold part of his weight. I remember your mother's hands, he whispered, and I remember Helek's laugh. If we survive tomorrow, I want memories that belong to us. Dravara drew back enough to see his face. The crypt, the poison, and the waiting rebellion made tenderness feel impossible. That was precisely why she refused to let fear make the choice. She kissed him. It was not the surrender the mating songs promised. Khaion remained still until her hand tightened at his neck. Then he answered with careful hunger. Pine and rain mingled without magic, deciding which belonged to whom. When they parted, his eyes were human. That one, Dravara said, touching the silver thread. We do not spend. Never. Orinora opened the crypt door. Behind her stood Sornik, with a stolen guard's sword and an expression that could have cut stone. The council has moved the declaration forward, Orinora said. Irion woke early. We have 2 hours until he becomes protector. Khaion tried to stand alone and nearly fell. Sornik caught his arm before Dravara could. The 2 men looked at each other across years of inherited blood. Do not mistake this for forgiveness, Sornik said. I would not insult you by asking for it quickly. Together, they carried the Wolf King out through the bones of his ancestors. They reached the moonwell through the abandoned loom chamber. Above them, the council bells called every pack delegate to the throne hall. Below, blue-white light surged through the grate in pulses that matched Khaion's failing heartbeat. Maldron spread the recovered register and the 7-column pattern across the floor. The local branches could be restored only if the sovereign released the central knot, and every pack willingly accepted its burden back. Sornik threatened to cut the roots if the delegates refused. Khaion, pale with poison, surprised him by agreeing that the throne could not remain a weapon. You are still deciding for everyone, Dravara warned. Khaion looked at the unlikely alliance around him. Then we carry the truth upstairs and ask in front of them all. He removed his iron circlet. The only decision I make alone is whether this remains a crown. They entered the throne hall through the floor beneath the royal dais. Khaion had already begun. He stood before the moonwell in white ceremonial robes, addressing the 7 delegates seated in a crescent. Behind him, Captain Aurek and 30 guards formed a wall of steel. Incense coiled from silver bowls. Khaion's empty throne had been draped in mourning black, although its owner still lived. The royal wolf has yielded to corruption, Khaion proclaimed. To protect the realm, the council must place the ancient authority in hands capable of restraint. You have never mistaken restraint for anything but a leash, Khaion said. Every head turned. He climbed onto the dais without crown or shirt, black poison veins visible across his chest. Dravara walked at his right, carrying Corvara's thread. Orenora took his left. Sornik and Maldron emerged behind them with the stolen register. Aurek drew his sword. The guards followed. Captain, Khaion said. Did Khaion tell you I was feral? He showed us the blood in the archive. Blood from a hand I cut saving the woman he called an assassin. Ask why his guards wore bitterroot masks before they knew she possessed bitterroot. Uncertainty moved through the line. Khaion did not turn. A poisoned king will say anything to remain crowned. Then let us remove the crown from the argument. Khaion placed the iron circlet on the stone before the moonwell. I renounce the inherited command of the White Throne, he said. I release every pact from obedience carried through my blood. I claim no mate by scent, no loyalty by fear, and no peace purchased through an unwilling body. The well struck upward. Blue fire filled the throne hall. Every delegate gasped as the old oath opened. Khaion fell to one knee. Across the crescent, wolves surfaced beneath human faces. Claws, amber eyes, teeth bared by anger that had been stored elsewhere for generations. Khaion smiled sadly. And there is your freedom. He lifted one hand. The incense bowls flared black. Night glass vapor rolled over the council. Delegates half shifted, and guards turned their blades on allies. Ash-bound rebels rushed from the passages with bitterroot cloths, while Orenora's wolves restrained those who had lost control. Sornik raised his knife over the silver roots. Khaion blocked Dravara's path. He admitted that pack wars had destroyed his birthplace, and that command had ended the killing. Corvara trusted people to choose responsibility. He said. The old king answered with vengeance. Control worked. Then you made it the only answer anyone was allowed, Dravara replied. Behind him, Khaion collapsed as the moonwell dragged every poisoned burden through him. Khaion laid a blade against Corvara's thread and warned that opening it would hollow Dravara's memories. Across the hall, 7 delegates fought feelings generations of rulers had carried for them. Sornik waited to destroy. Orenora chose to protect a rival. Khaion reached only to push the discarded crown farther away. Dravara understood. Her mother had not hidden a private answer inside a public wound. Maldron, Dravara said, set the 7-column cloth around the well. The old weaver understood first. They ran, unreeling the pattern in a circle. Dravara faced the council. The truth requires memory. I cannot pay for all of you. If you want the crown to keep carrying your anger, remain where you are. If you want your own will back, enter the weave and offer one memory of a time royal command protected you, and one of a time it harmed you. Conceal either, and the cloth will reject you. No one moved until Khaion's breath stopped. Orinora entered the circle first. She offered the memory of crowned soldiers saving her pack from famine, and the memory of being promised as payment for that aid. Auric followed, naming both the border peace that saved lives and the decree that killed his sister for sheltering a Varkan child. One by one, the delegates brought equally divided truths. 7 columns blazed around the moonwell. If this struggle between inherited power and chosen responsibility speaks to you, stay with the story and share which choice you would have made. Then the hall, the wolves, and the red moon pulled Dravara back into their waiting danger. She looped Corvara's black thread through all 7 lights. Irion cut at it. Sornik threw his hooked knife. The hilt struck Irion's wrist, sending his blade across the floor. No more cutting what we are afraid to understand, Sornik said. Dravara drove the bone needle into the final knot. Memory opened like a second sky. Corvara appeared above the well beside a living, already poisoned Helek. Their discovery became visible to all. The original, well-transformed aggression only when each pack named the need beneath it. The sovereign joined those voices, but ruled none. Later, kings had inverted the design, pulling difficult feelings away from communities and calling dependence peace. Helek renounced succession to expose it. Irion poisoned him. The vision showed Corvara holding a knife over the roots on the night before the purge. She chose not to sever them. Instead, she wove a path back to the packs. Destruction ends the hand holding the chain, her memory said. Repair asks whether we will forge another. I leave my children a harder weapon, a choice no ruler can make alone. Sornik sank to his knees. Dravara felt the cost seek her. It reached for her mother's face, her brother's whistle, Khaion's kiss in the crypt. Then the 7 offered memories rose around her and divided the weight. No one forgot entirely. Each person lost only one small certainty: the comforting belief that responsibility belonged elsewhere. The black thread turned white. Irion lunged for the crown. Khaion caught his wrist, but the counselor pressed a shard of night glass into the black veins over Khaion's heart. The king convulsed. His wolf reflection sprang upright, darkness swallowing its body. He cannot live without a second vessel, Irion said. You can change the pattern, but not the burden already inside him. Dravara knew he was right. The new paths would protect future rulers. They could not erase what Khaion had carried for years. Someone could share it, but the old mating bond would make that person subject to the crown. Unless there was no crown. She kicked the iron circlet into the moonwell. Metal melted in blue fire. The command knot shattered. Khaion fell, and every royal scent vanished from the room. The delegates stared at him without instinctive deference. He was no longer their supernatural center. He was only a dying man. Dravara knelt beside him and tied the white thread around his wrist. His eyes found hers. No crown, he whispered. No claim. No fate used as a cage. Only what we choose. This burden may scar you. Then tell me the part no one else can decide. Khaion's human hand closed around hers. I love you. I will love you if you refuse. I will love you if surviving means you leave this palace and never return. Will you share only what you freely choose, for only as long as we both remain free to choose again? The question, not the scent, completed the bond. Yes, Dravara said, and I love you without belonging to you. She closed the knot. Darkness rushed from Khaion into the thread. Dravara felt 7 generations of swallowed fury, but the new pattern carried it outward. Around the hall, delegates named what lived beneath their anger. Hunger, humiliation, fear of losing land, grief for children, shame. Each truth changed the energy passing through it. Wolves lowered their claws. Guards removed their masks. The white reflection beside Khaion shook once, and black fell from its fur like burned snow. Khaion inhaled. Rain, cedar, and frost mint met pine and winter iron in the open hall. The scent was no command. Some wolves found it beautiful. Others found it ordinary. What mattered was that Khaion smiled before instinct could tell him to. Irian looked around at the council he no longer controlled. Sornik retrieved his hooked knife but did not use it. Captain Ulrich bound the counselor's hands with the very silver chain taken from the crypt. You will be tried before all 7 packs and the surviving Varkin, Khaion said. You are not king, Irian replied. Khaion glanced at the molten crown. Then consider it the request of a witness. Orinora addressed the delegates. I second it. One by one, all 7 did the same. The red moon set without a protector. Peace became noisier. Without the crown muting disputes, the packs had to name hunger, land, fear, and grief before conflict turned feral. Khaion did not reclaim the throne. He accepted 1 year as the removable first voice, only after the charter gave equal standing to every pack, the lower city, and the restored Varkin Guild. Orinora became the Western delegate. Raelel's evidence cleared the Varkin names, and Irion was tried publicly for Helek's murder, the forged bonds, and the purge. Sornik never offered easy forgiveness. He and Dravara argued through spring and rebuilt their bond slowly. He taught her lost whistle back to her 1 note at a time, while the Ashbound became independent keepers of the local wells. Maldron rebuilt a double loom beneath the ballroom and left its 2nd seat for whoever Dravara freely invited. Khaion recovered by degrees. When phantom rage woke him, Dravara asked what need lived beneath it and listened. When her memories blurred, he returned the details he carried for her. They refused a rushed royal wedding and traveled instead, meeting villages harmed by the old peace and Varkin survivors who wanted their names restored without being ordered home. When they finally made a private vow, it happened at the double loom rather than before a throne. Khaion sat in one weaver's seat and Dravara in the other. They passed a plain shuttle between them, adding no titles and promising no permanence they could not honestly understand. He pledged to tell her when duty began disguising control. She pledged to tell him when fear began disguising distance. They agreed that either could loosen the white thread without punishment, and that choosing it again would matter more than having tied it once. The cloth they made was imperfect. Khaion pulled one edge too tight. Dravara laughed, and a blue line wandered crookedly through the center. Maldron declared it the first honest royal fabric they had ever seen, because neither love nor government survived by pretending tension did not exist. A year after the interrupted mating ball, the palace held another gathering beneath the chandeliers. It was no longer called a choosing. Wolves, humans, Varkan weavers, and people who belonged to no pack came to dance, negotiate, flirt, refuse, and leave by doors that remained unbolted. The ancient moon curtain still divided the ballroom from the western gallery. Dravara stood behind it before the music began, fingers resting on the repaired seam. Once, she had hidden there because being unknown was the closest thing she had to safety. Now she waited by choice, listening as Khaion crossed the marble on the other side. He stopped. Even without a crown, he always caught her scent. "There is someone behind the curtain," he said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Laughter moved through the hall. Dravara smiled, but did not emerge. "What does the first voice intend to do about it?" she asked. Khaion came no closer. "Ask whether she wants to be found." Dravara took hold of the velvet with both hands. The white thread she shared with him rested loose around her wrist. A bond either could untie and neither treated carelessly. "She does," Dravara said. Then she drew the curtains open herself,